guys, welcome to my channel. Today's video is about the lessons that I've learned whilst I've been putting together this collection of junk, art and vintage journals. I've had a huge amount of fun putting the pages in and sewing them up, and I wanted to say a really big thank you to everybody who supported me as I've been sharing these on YouTube. And I just thought it might be nice to share a little bit of what I've learned from putting them together. So if you're interested in seeing more about any of these, there is a video and a page turn on each one of them. And if you have, like me, a phenomenal passion for paper, then hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because I'm continuing to put junk journals together. In fact, the one that's in flight at the moment is this one, which is a Christmas vintagey junk journal, and I'll be sharing that in the next video. So let's clear these away and just maybe give you a few thoughts about what I've learned as I've been making and creating this little collection. The first lesson that I thought I'd share is that junk journaling for me seems to work well if I have a theme to put the book together around, and these are just a couple of examples of the themes that I've been choosing in the collection of 11 or so that I've made. This one is an autumn/fall theme, so it's all about those rusty oranges, golds, rich colours. I wanted to put something together that was working around maybe an English autumn and the feel of that. So I've got some very pretty pictures in here that were from an artist that I've been collaborating with, and I mixed that with some oranges and some greens, and I added a really pretty centre page with some textured glitter on there just to really make that pop. So that was a theme around autumn. And early on in the series I also put together something around one of my favourite times of the year for playing with paper, and this one is all about those rich golds and the deep reds, and this one is a Scandinavian Christmas. So I picked a Christmas theme, but because there are many and I wanted to get it to work together in the pages, I went further than that and said let's do something Scandinavian. So I've added stamps, I've added extra bits of glitter. I've really just plunged into my stash and pulled out things that seemed to resonate around that theme. So this one I enjoyed putting together, and it kind of goes around some of those muted tones of browns and orange. So that was the first lesson, that having a theme to work around really does help me with my colour palette and maybe the style of the journal. And really that brings me to the second lesson, which is I've learnt that colour is hugely important to me, and I thought I'd pull out a couple of journals just to illustrate the point. So the first one is this Rupert Bear journal. So it's very different from anything I'd done before. It is all around this cute little character that I pulled out of an annual that I'd deconstructed, and the reds and the yellows really seem to be very happy and jolly and pop, and I used those in the rest of the journal. So I just added not only colours but embellishments that were of that young, youthful, fun style to go with it. I've still used pages like this bluish map page because that also seemed to go with some of the Rupert Bear pictures, but I really enjoyed putting something together that had vibrant colours, which is quite a contrast, for example, to some of the more recent journals I've been putting together, which are about vintage and muted tones. And this is a recent one that I've just been finishing off with some pretty music papers. The other contrast when I talk about colour is colour doesn't need to be vibrant for me to enjoy it. What I do enjoy is thinking about how to bring together the palette in a particular set of colours. So to illustrate that point, I thought I'd just revisit this little vintage botanical journal that I made recently. So the colour palette in here is very natural vintage tones, so very different from the vibrant reds in here. But again, what I've tried to do is bring out those creams, bring out those gentle greens. I've got some little bits of ephemera here with some olive green ink. I've got quite a bit of botanical paper, and I've made it more muted by using chalks to rub onto the papers to make them a little bit more distressed. So you can see as I turn the pages here, there's quite a lot of black and white that stays with that rather neutral palette. So I'm also enjoying increasingly putting together these vintage junk journals, and I'm going to be doing more of those as we move through the winter and the spring next year. Another lesson I've learned is that a journal is never really finished. When I first filmed this one, it wasn't as fat. I've been playing with it since and adding quite a lot of little things that go in pockets. I've actually added extra pockets. I've made more little journaling cards with vintage papers, and I've tucked them into bits of belly band. I've added extra belly bands and pockets, so this has got a fair bit fatter, and I've really enjoyed adding to it, and I'm going to continue adding to it no doubt as I start to write in it. So it's a lot of fun playing with your stash, seeing what you can do with the little pieces of paper that you've got. And I kind of have the theory that no piece of paper should be wasted, so somehow and somewhere it does have a home in a project, in a junk journal perhaps somewhere. The next lesson I thought I'd share is about the dimensions, size and depth of the journal. So maybe if I can use this little art journal to illustrate the point. I found as I put together the collection, I was happy to keep repeating the dimensions that I'd started with, and those are in inches, 4¼ inches by 7¼ and in centimetres that's 11 centimetres by 18 centimetres for the cover, and I tend to make the papers be about ½ to 1 centimetre less than the cover so that they tuck inside. I prefer nowadays to keep adding a spine, and I'm about 1/4 inch or 6mm depth on this one, which seems to be about right for the thickness of journal that I seem to be producing. And the other piece that seems to work for me is a very simple binding, and I've really been sticking just to one fat signature with a figure of 8 done in string, and I have said that I'll do another video where I just illustrate in a process video how I put my signatures in using this really simple figure of 8. So the dimensions, as I'm saying, work for me, and they work for me. Let's answer the question why. Why do they work for me? They work for me because I think this amount of space on a page allows me to use the papers I've got, the pictures and images that I've got, and also I feel okay about making something pop on the page. So I really love adding embellishments, and if I can use washi like this, I feel that I can still have plenty of space to write. It's big enough for that, but the little ephemera and the embellishments don't get lost on the page. So I can add pages from some of my books, and I think some of these botanicals work quite well. I'm really enjoying that, but I can also add little bits of tags and maybe getting a collection of those so it feels chunky in the pocket. And here I've just added a little bit of extra cardstock with some mica paint and glitter. So the dimensions work for me, and I will keep going with some of these size of journals, but I've also thought that I might go just a little bit bigger so that I can add just a little bit more in the way of belly bands and pockets, and tuck a little bit more in so I can write on it. I would love to know what you like in terms of the dimensions, what size of junk journal works for you and why. So do leave me a comment down below so that I can understand that and also share it with everybody else. And the last point I wanted to make, the last lesson, is as I've gone through this process of making them, I've learned that it is absolutely all about what makes you happy to put them together, and there are a huge variety of vintage, art and junk journals that I see here on YouTube, and everybody does have their own style, but to find your own style and to just do what you enjoy is incredibly liberating. And I guess I felt when I started these that I hadn't really got it right, and there were ways to do it, and I needed to learn those ways. And over the course of putting them together, I guess I've got a little bit more confidence that it's okay to do it my way, which might be not quite the same. And Also, I'm okay with doing things that don't work. I kind of give myself the right to fail, which makes it so much more enjoyable, and you can actually end up with things that you wouldn't otherwise have done. So it is all about enjoying what you have, what you want to put together, what works for you, and I'm just going to carry on having a go at making things that I enjoy, hopefully sharing with them with you so that you can enjoy them too. And with that, I will wrap up here. I will hopefully see you again in a week when I'll share my next project with you. Have a wonderful weekend, and with that, I will say bye.